Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, my name is Andrea. I'm a professor in the linguistics department at Manoa, and I'm just up here to introduce the rest of the team. We're talking today about a project called HISKILLS, which stands for Hawaii School Kids Investigating Language and Life in Society. Language in Life and Society. Yes. This is an after-school project that we've recently started that we're going to tell you about. All I want to say for now is that as linguists, we're mainly interested in how people use language in real life and not so much interested in how people, quote, should be using language. We're not so much interested in language rules. We're really interested in finding value in the way people speak every day. The HISKILLS program is started by some linguistics grad students and some professors at UH. And we've been going since last spring. We've been doing this program at Voyager Public Charter School, which is in Manoa, and we're looking for other schools to join us. So I'll come back at the end of the presentation to tell you about how you can be involved if you're interested in having us. So I'm going to turn this over to Maggie.
Okay. Hello, I'm Maggie. I'm one of the grad students. So I'm just going to talk to you guys about, maybe I shouldn't be right in front of the what HISKILLS is. So, like Andrea said, we're an after-school program, and we've only gone through one quarter, so we've only done HISKILLS once. But we're a 7-week-long set of workshops, and we meet for an hour and a half once a week. So far, we've been doing it on Wednesdays because BPCS has an early release day. So the students are really kind of sitting ducks for us, and we can just go in, and they don't have anywhere else to go, so they come and join our group. So what we do in our meetings is we teach kids how to do research on language and linguistics in society. And what's important about this is that, as we've seen in other talks today, there's kind of this thought that there's only like one type of language that is acceptable for research and study, and that's not the case. And we wanted to show kids that language that they hear around them every day and that anyone hears around them every day is not only like scientifically valid, but it's got social worth. And yeah, so we wanted to emphasize that. So some of the activities that we did in this program include take-home research, which sounds like homework, but it's not. It's fun research. And they had to do a family ethnography, which is going and interviewing their grandparents and their parents, finding out kind of their heritage and what languages were associated with their families. And then we had slang documentation. So for our first session of HISKILLS, we had an end product be a slang dictionary that the kids that worked with us, that we would all kind of create together. We thought that this would be a good way to kind of put kids in the driver's seat as researchers, because this is the language they know. And so they would have to go home and think about language that they use, slang that they use, that they hear in their families or that they hear with their peer groups, and bring that back. And then in our class, sorry. So when they did come back and we would meet in class, we would do things like recordings. So for our slang dictionary, it was multimedia, so we had it be online. And so we taught the kids how to use audio recorders. Just the basic skills, but now they know a little bit more about technology and how to use that. And then we would obviously discuss in class, because what is learning without discussion? And we had them record themselves at least one time having a very intense discussion about whether pineapple belongs on pizza or not. Because believe it or not, that's a really big, a heated debate topic for a lot of people. And so the kids discussed this and they recorded themselves, and then we had them play back the language that they had recorded to kind of get them more metalinguistically aware of how they speak. And then at the very end, we had a parents' day to showcase the students' work. So we showed the slang dictionary that we created together, and then the students also had the opportunity to present some other visual aid about something that we learned in our workshops. And it was at this point that a lot of students chose to present on Pigeon and their families. Oh yeah, and importantly, we are a free of charge after-school program, and we provide snacks. Thank you. So our philosophy is basically that language is a tool for learning and teaching unity through diversity. Even though humans of the world speak different languages, we all have a language, and it's something that connects us to our identity and to our heritage. And then also, kids are akamai about the language they hear every day. They're language experts. Okay. All right, I'll just yell.
Try to another mic right there. Okay.
Like I kind of already said, we just wanted to guide them in learning how to carry out their own original research, and we did this by focusing on slang. And then also to help them appreciate the role of language in society. And then before my colleagues talk about the specifics of what we do in our after-school program, just a very brief kind of history of where high schools came from. All of us are involved in an organization on UH's campus called the Language Documentation Training Center, or LDTC for short. And it's LDTC's mission to kind of spread awareness about language endangerment and also teach native speakers of other languages how to document their language. And then most participants at UH, as you might guess, are students at UH. But Hawaii is so diverse.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. And there's a lot of languages spoken on this island, and we could really tap into like local resources about that instead of like foreign exchange students, for example. So we wanted to reach out to other school-age kids, and in this vein we went and talked to Andrea, and she just so happened to have just sold her laptop on Craigslist to a principal of Voyager Public Charter School, so connection made.
Okay, so just a little bit about what the workshops look like. We have a 7-week series, and then we have about an hour and a half for each session. So this is actually exactly what we did for the 7 weeks last spring in 2017. As you can see, a lot of the different topics aren't necessarily pigeon related, so you might be sitting here wondering, why are they talking about this? They haven't said pigeon once. So a lot of our topics, we had 2 main goals, right? We're linguists, so we wanted to bring the idea of the importance of linguistic diversity and issues in linguistic social justice and things to the students. But we also wanted to kind of focus on a final project. And as Maggie mentioned, the final project was a slang multimedia dictionary. So we kind of built this over the 7 weeks, and our topics were kind of tailored to that end. And then as you see, week 3 Pigeon, we have different elements throughout, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, of how we utilized Pigeon in our workshops. And if you ever want to check out our materials, all of our presentations and everything that we all created ourselves, they're all available on our HISKILLS.org website. So then, we're all linguistics grad students, with the exception of Andrea, who's a professor, but we wanted to really rely on the keiki to be the experts, because a lot of times kids sit in class all day and they get talked to, right? We wanted to hear back from them, because students use language just as much as the rest of us, all day, every day. And they know more about their own language use than they might think that they do. So we wanted to treat them as primary researchers, treat them as the experts on their language, and to embed their linguistics experience in a broader frame. Our job was just there to provide the discussion materials, to prompt discussion, to ask them why they think certain ways about different things, different issues regarding language. And then, as Maggie mentioned, they had the opportunity to research and investigate their own linguistic backgrounds, to go home to their parents and say, okay, what language does grandma speak? What language does auntie speak? Kind of look at, oh yeah, no, I do use Pigeon with my cousins, but not with my grandma, and not with, to kind of just figure out the ways that they use language, the different ways that they utilize their languages. And at Voyager, there were students with a lot of different backgrounds. It was really great. We had students of Japanese descent, Filipino, American, even French. But one thing that they had in common was they really liked to use Pigeon. So one of our first activities that we did is we had them go home and come back and give us all the slang words that they can think of, right? And of course, like she mentioned, turnt, lit, fleek, on point, all of these different words came up. But they also came back with hamajang and dakine, they loved dakine, that was their favorite, and brada, and all of these other Pigeon words as well. So it was kind of getting mixed in with this idea of slang. So what we really wanted to do is we wanted to let them know and explore a little bit more into this. What is Pigeon? What is slang? Are they the same thing? Sometimes you hear that now. Oh, the language kids use nowadays is just slang. But really we wanted to tease that apart and emphasize the difference between Pigeon and slang, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. But in our Pigeon workshop, we talked about the history of Pigeon. Where did it come from? What different languages does it pull from? And then we talked about where you use Pigeon, where you would expect to hear it, where you don't really expect to hear it, right? It goes back to this idea of can and no can, you know, where you find it, where you might not find it. And kids know more about that than they think they do, you know. You ask them a question and all they have to do is make a face like, oh, would you hear Pigeon here? Yeah. Well, what about over here? You know, so kind of teasing out that knowledge that they already have. We also brought in the idea of other pigeons around the world, that the idea of a pigeon in Creole isn't unique to just Hawaii. There are examples all around the world from where languages come into contact and these sorts of things develop. So the next couple slides we're going to show you are actual slides that we pulled from presentations. So this was the one that we brought up in our slang discussion, because with kids coming back with all of these pigeon examples in their slang worksheets, we wanted to make sure that we pulled this out and told them, you know, for sure, pigeon is not just slang, it's a language. And so this was kind of the teaser to the next week's workshop. Like, come back next week and we'll tell you more about it. So this idea of slang, we let the students kind of decide. We all got together in a little think tank and said, okay, what are the characteristics of slang? You know, it comes in and out of fashion rapidly. We asked them, do you use the word groovy anymore? Do you guys use rad, tubular, gnarly? Like, they're like, no, we don't use that. Okay, so in and out of fashion rapidly. Same words aren't always used. Spoken by young people, teachers, you know, would you hear your grandma say she's, you know, her eyebrows are on fleek? That's weird. Okay, so they had this kind of knowledge as well. They knew when it was used. Concerns informal topics. You don't usually use slang words in formal essays, for example, and is creative and form and meaning. So a lot of these definitions that they came up for with slang doesn't apply to pigeon words. So we kind of used this definition that they created as a test to kind of show how pigeon was a little bit different from slang.
Right, now I don't need to educate you guys about pigeon, but I just want to give you an impression of what sort of things we did in the classroom with the kids, because they all were, I think I'm going to be fine, but like just because you already set it up. All right, is this working good? Oh, this is sort of like a different voice quality. Anyway, is this better or this better? What do you prefer? With the mic? Okay, good. All right, so as Maggie said before, you know, we were gonna tell the kids about different languages in Hawaii and in the world. But then what they were really interested in is pigeon. We always kept coming back to this topic, and they were experts really about pigeon. And so, but while they had the knowledge about that, they didn't necessarily know, you know, about the history. Even though some kids were really, you know, really knowledgeable about that part too. But they didn't necessarily know where all the words that contributed to pigeon came from, right? So here's some examples. And so it was fun going through these with the kids. And, you know, sure enough, they would, you know, contribute with more. And then some kids would say, oh yeah, we use that in our family. You know, the Japanese kids would, possibly they would use bachi more than other kids who are Filipino background or something. And then the other kids, you know, throw out something else. So it was interesting, and it related to our mission goal of teaching unity through diversity. All right, so this is one other activity that we did. We had them, I don't know if, I'm going to make some commercial here too, because this is my friend who published this one, Kiaone Smith, who translated the Little Prince, I guess it's called, the Petit Prince, into Pigeon. And we took that to class and had them read out the section like that to show them, you know, that Pigeon is also used in domains. We were talking about domains of usage at that time, that in domains that they wouldn't necessarily expect it to be used, right? And the kids were saying, oh yeah, you know what, I heard it recently in church, and other kids were you know, no way, I don't think anyone would use it in church, but that, you know, brought us some discussions like that. One other thing we talked about is talking about pigeon, that, you know, we were telling them there's pigeon, Hawaiian pigeon with a capital P, but then there's also pigeon with a lowercase p. And that relates to other pigeons in the world. You know, Hawaii is not the only place where you find something such as pigeons in Creole. And so we gave him some idea of other pigeons in the world, especially Singapore English or Singlish and Tok Pigeon in Papua New Guinea, which are both also English-based. And we showed them some video clips of that. You know, we gave them some examples, and they had a lot of fun. It was really interesting to them. I would show it to you, but you know, I think we're running out of time pretty soon. So just in case you want to hear some Singlish, go on YouTube and look for Beauty and the Beast in Singlish. It's really good. You know, we had a good time in class, and you know, we brought snacks, and the kids enjoyed that. But also there were you know, there were all sorts of benefits that the students took from attending these workshops, and they all came. It was an after-school program, like Maggie said before. So it wasn't compulsory in any way, right? So, but they always enjoy coming back. And so one of the things is, you know, Ashley mentioned it before, that the students became the primary researchers. They were the experts of what we were talking about, right? And then we also talked about language equality, you know, about discrimination maybe against certain other languages, about prejudice and things like that. So that you know, brought us some interesting discussions too. And you know, they enjoyed expressing themselves in the projects that they ended up doing. They were given, you know, free. I mean, they were given some options, but they could basically choose what they wanted to do as a final project. And they presented it, you know, with their parents attending and everything. So that was good. Yeah, I think we're gonna move on here in the interest of time because we're sort of running out, right? Oh yeah, so this is the really important part here. So we still have 5 minutes, thank you. And I want to use most of those 5 minutes later to get some input from you guys, because now we're setting up a new workshop for, we're starting at the beginning of November, November 1st if I remember correctly. And it's going to be a separate workshop all dedicated to Pigeon, because we saw that the kids really enjoyed that, so we want to give them more of that, right? And so these are the topics that we came up with so far, and we're in the process right now of putting materials together, preparing for those workshops. And so I think we can pull it up later again, and I would love to hear your input on these. Back to you, Andrew.
Okay, thanks guys. Okay, so as I said earlier, we're a pretty new program, and we've just been in one school so far, but we're really interested in expanding into other schools. So if you have an idea about how we could possibly come to your school, let me know. We have some flyers here. Our website is on here. You can take a look at the activities we did last year. There's also an email address and a phone number. Please get in touch with us. We can come to you. It's free of charge to your students. We bring snacks. All we need is a classroom. We've been in the middle school, like we said. This was basically a substitute for A+ for kids who were just hanging out after school. But we're interested in other possibilities as well. We were talking before about possibly looking into credit recovery in high schools. We could probably go as young as 4th grade, I would imagine, with a curriculum as well. So please feel free to get in touch. We'd love to talk to you about coming to your school.